This episode is sponsored by the Freedom Builder System. For just $57 a month, you can get my custom Biz Builder AI, plus membership in the Freedom Builder community. Think of it as having me, your personal business coach and corporate escape Sherpa, right in your pocket 24/7. Biz Builder AI is your business building tool with 5 Sherpas in one powerful tool. It's a coach in AI form that helps you choose the right idea, create offers, build your financial runway, and market yourself without the cringe. And the Freedom Builder membership gives you the training, community, and accountability to actually follow through. So you're never doing this alone. Think of it as clarity, tools, and support all in one for less than the cost of a dinner out and a fraction of what you'd spend on private coaching. Check the show notes for the link, and let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Gen X Remix, Midlife Laughs and Next Acts, the podcast for bold women who are ready to build a business that lights you up and escape corporate. Yes, always in that order. I'm your host, Tabatha Jones, the Corporate Escape Sherpa. Today's conversation is about something we don't usually talk about until it's staring us in the face: inheriting a home. My guest Scott has lived this journey personally and professionally, turning overwhelming loss into a system that helps families find clarity, peace, and even more possibilities when property changes hands. Whether you're facing this now or want to be prepared for what's ahead, Scott's insights will give you tools, perspectives, and a whole lot of relief that you don't have to figure it all out alone. Let's jump into it. All right, Scott, welcome to the Gen X Remix. How are you today?
I'm great, Tabitha. Thank you so much for having me here with you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation because I'm really intrigued by the work that you do and also believe that it's so valuable and important for us to know the information that you're about to share. Before we jump into all of that good stuff, though, I'd love for you to share your remix story with our listeners.
So, my remix is twofold. I got hit in the face when I was very young by losing both of my parents at different times. One when I was 12, another when I was 24. And those were kind of the big, holy smokes, everything's changed moments. And then a few years later, I lost my grandparents that remained, both of them very close to the same time. And my silver lining out of that was just what a lot of people think when we're younger, that we know everything, we've experienced it all. And I said, the good thing is that I've already been through this and I've checked it off my list, so I don't need to go through it again. And then fast forward to middle age, I'm married and now my wife's going through it. And anyone that has a partner understands that if your partner's going through it, you're going through it as well. And then we had friends that went, hey, wait a minute, Scott's gone through this. He helps people with this. What do we do? And then when you help your friends, you're, of course, helping at a different level and kind of re-experiencing it all over again. So I've taken the parts out of that loss that were the hardest for me and the most challenging. And I looked back at all those instances in my life and just figured what would help me the most from what I know now, so that I could get through those times in an easier way. And how could I apply that to something that would make it easier for other people? And when I was dealing with that, when I was a younger person, the one person who helped me out the most was, surprisingly enough, a realtor. And he helped me figure out what was right for me, taught me about investing in real estate, taught me about cleaning up properties, turning them, how to find ones that work well. So I've created a system so that when people feel overwhelmed, they can just sit down with me with their siblings, other loved ones, and just lay it out on the table, so that rather than carrying it for months and months at a time and trying to sort out all the details while having your life, grieving, and everything else that goes along with that, we have a plan in place for this that fits our future.
Wow. You were so young when you went through those difficult times. I can't even imagine. And I love that you were able to take what you learned during that time so that you could make it easier for others as they go through those times. And to your point, when a spouse or a partner is going through the same thing, or a sibling or whomever, you're definitely in it too. So being there to guide and help has been, I'm sure, so powerful and helpful for your wife. Oh my gosh. So tell me a little bit more about the kind of that real estate side of this, of things. Most of us in our Gen X space, we're in our 50s, edging up to early 60s for some. And, we maybe haven't been faced with something like this. What are some of the first things that you recommend? And when do you recommend that people start thinking about these things?
It really depends on the situation. And I meet people at my monthly events that some of them, they have older parents that are in failing health and the writing's on the wall and they kind of want to prepare. And other people are in that moment of shock where they've had big losses and what happens now? What do we do with the house? And everyone's situation is different. I've met the older side of Gen X that says, hey, I'm taking Social Security now and I only get 1,700 a month, but somehow I need to afford to pay bills in Southern California and deal with all this and the house is falling apart. What do we do? And I have other people that are more affluent that say, let's just sell the home. We already know what we want with it. And that's all well and good. My purpose with doing this isn't to tell people like, hey, I'm a realtor, let me sell your home. There are many times where I meet up with people and we say the best thing for you and what you want going forward is actually to rent the home out. And then we even have options for people that see that writing on the wall with elderly parents who maybe have cognitive decline or need to figure out a right size option for their living situation. But here in California, as you know, if they've owned homes for any period of time, they have massive appreciation. And the 121 exemption is that exemption that, if you're a single filer, you get 250,000 of your capital gain exposure forgiven. And if you're married filing jointly, you get 500,000. And many of these people that have owned homes for 20 years have capital gains that are much larger than that. And there are situations where, like, yeah, if you inherit it, you get that step up in basis. But what if you need to do something while mom or dad are still alive? And we've created this system down to the T. So even in that situation, there are options for those families to defer and offset those capital gains so that they can still pay for their parents' care and not feel like my wife and I did when my father-in-law died. And now all of a sudden we adopted a 79-year-old mom who has cognitive decline.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the decision, I mean, so you're going through the emotions, you've got all the things weighing on you. And if you haven't planned for this piece, it can be extremely overwhelming, I imagine.
It can. And then I always like to tell people that as you heal, your perceptions and what you want, what you need will change. It's just a natural part of the healing process. And that's why one of the first things that I carry families through is we have a calculator that I built out where they can see all of their options and how those impact their lives all on one single line. And I walk through that with people for free. They get to decide what works out for them and what makes sense for them.
Yeah. And I could see that it would be very different for every individual. I just think, as you pointed out in California, it's so expensive to even get into the housing market that being able to hold on to a home is actually a pretty cool gift if you can rent that out and turn it into an income or an income that pays for the care of the person that you're taking care of.
Absolutely. Or if you inherited and you're like some of us are in Gen X where maybe the retirement fund isn't fulfilled as much as we would like it to be, we could kind of work with that and find some ways to add some contributions pretty quickly.
That's great. I do work with a lot of women who are planning that corporate escape. So they have worked for maybe 20, 30 years. They're thinking of maybe dreaming of retirement, but we don't really retire. We just keep going and do something different, right? But that feeling of, I can't really go. I don't have enough saved. I don't have enough in my retirement. I can't afford to keep the house and do this. I mean, it causes a lot of kind of internal turmoil sometimes. So I know inheritance and death is very different, but it's also that stability shift that people go through when they leave a job, when they lose somebody in their lives. I mean, there's so many things that I could see where your work would benefit people in these positions.
Absolutely. And to that point, when we experience losing a loved one or having to do these giant transitions in life, no matter what they are, we start leaking our energy. And what I mean by leaking our energy is we're maybe giving our thoughts and our time and our conversations to something that's not actually helping us in that moment. And if we could get a conscious grip of what that leaky energy is, then we know it's actually consuming us and what's creating that overwhelm or that fear or that just sense of I need to stop and slow down and pause. And a lot of times, if you know what's leaking there, like for example, if you're raising teenagers, you just lost your parent, you're dealing with the grief, you're trying to figure out what the heck to do with the house, or maybe you found out that your parent did something that maybe you weren't aware of. Like I've met people that found out their parents had gambling addictions that they never knew about until they got to see the bank accounts. And it's wild what that can do to people. And it leaves those Gen X kids just thinking about all of that at once. So it's important to know what's consuming you so you could kind of package it down and instead of being overwhelmed, just check something off the list.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I have a friend recently who has been in a situation. Parents had severe cognitive decline, had to be moved into a facility to make sure that they have around the clock care. And the biggest surprise that they found, aside from the fact that how quickly things were progressing, is that the parents had done a reverse mortgage on their house. So that created another whole, piece of surprise because the money that was originally going to pay for this care wasn't what people expected. So I see that these things happen. What are your recommendations for kind of getting ahead of it and knowing and maybe having these more difficult conversations so that there aren't as many surprises?
Really, the hardest thing is getting everyone in the family, all the decision makers. Like if your parents have a trust and you found out that you and one of your siblings are successor trustees, get that out, get all of those people at a table and just understand what your parents' wishes are for those moments, whether it's the cognitive decline, whether it's celebrating their life. If you find out that you have two co-trustees, I've met so many people lately where they thought everything was great in the family and the siblings loved each other. They had great relationships their whole life. But then as soon as mom and dad die, they're throwing things at each other and it's a really not pretty situation. So just look for those things that could be buttoned up because so many of these trusts that our parents created haven't been reviewed for over 20 years. And so many things have changed. It's worth it while they're there if you have that option to just review that and make sure that all the information's accurate and easy to execute.
Yeah, great advice. And that's what happens. I think a lot of us do the set it and forget it method, right? We took care of
Yep.
the trust, we took care of the estate planning, we did all the things. Well, life changes significantly over a 20-year period. Maybe there have been remarriages, maybe there have been other shifts in the family that haven't been accounted for. So that is excellent advice. And for those who are listening, I say get down all of the paperwork and start making a plan to review that when the weather changes. What else do we do in the winter anyway, right? Might as well make a date to do
Yeah.
that in February, March.
And that's also right around the holidays when a lot of families start to have those conversations. And probably the most challenging thing is when your brother or sister has a conversation with mom and dad, and then you have your own separate conversation. And then later on, you and your sibling have to try and meet and agree on the conversations that both of you had separately with the same person.
You're making me smile a little bit thinking about conversations with my siblings and I, and conversations we've had with our mom. I'm like, wait, that's not what she told me. Let me make her, let's call her
Exactly.
together.
It's never what she told you. And then I think too, like if you, the other side of the token is if you are at that moment where you've experienced a loss and you're like, holy crap, what do I do?
Yeah.
Take care of yourself first. The first thing first is just take care of yourself. Nothing's going to burn down if you don't do anything for a week or two, except for take care of yourself. And if it feels like something is going to burn down with the house or you're going to lose it or there's a foreclosure or something, call the attorney that drafted the trust. If there is one, call me. We'll get you some resources to put out that fire so you don't have to.
Oh, I love that. That's so great and so helpful. Just with the emotions running high, I can see how your service would help. I think about myself and my siblings in an example like this. And, if there's a disagreement or a misunderstanding, or mom said something one way to one of us and a different way to the other one, and we all have our own translation of what's happening, that just makes the emotions even higher. And when you're already at that point where you've lost mom or dad, it doesn't get easier. You've got that additional emotional cloud kind of blocking. So, taking that step back to take care of yourself, I can see that would be very valuable.
Absolutely. And I would add to that when you take that step back, if you're thinking about like, well, we want to turn the house into a rental, just be cognizant. Like, do you have a sibling who has a spouse that you want to be in business with right then and there? Because I know a lot of us don't get in along with our in laws that great. Some of us have great relationships, but if it came to a business partnership, that actually wouldn't benefit any of us and we'd probably hate each other 5 months into it. And when you're renting a property together, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. And additionally, the just the push and pull. So where one sibling may have more stable finances, so they can get into that long-term investment and, keeping that property going. Another sibling might be in a tighter financial space where the money right now is what they feel is going to fix all of the problems. What do you recommend in a situation like that where there's just such a difference in how the siblings want to proceed or how the rest of the family wants to proceed?
So that's exactly why I set up this system in this way. So we'll meet with the whole family. It's purposely over Zoom. So that way, if siblings are in different parts of the country or wherever they are, we could all find a time to meet and be on the same page. And then as we have people in the family that say, hey, I need to cash out. I just need to take the money and go do whatever I need to go do with it. That's fine. If we have others that are saying, hey, what about investing this? Who should I talk to? This is $500,000. I've never put $500,000, just for an example, into an investment all at once. What are the checks and balances for the person that I choose to advise me on this? Or if you say, hey, we've got a great 401k, a great retirement plan, but we don't have any real estate to kind of, retirement plans ultimately pay us when we're 72 and older. And then people invest in real estate and those passive income streams so that they could have payments from when they're 62 to 72. That's the time when that's supposed to kick in. So there are options where we can look at different markets around the country and we teach people what to look for so that they could find something that fits their model and what they're trying to accomplish. We teach them how to evaluate properties, how to find them, and we'll even double check their work and share some resources around the country that we've developed so that they could feel supported and confident in those decisions.
Oh, wow. So helpful. So, just out of curiosity, can you share maybe one of your clients' success stories, something that started out maybe as a really difficult situation based
Yeah,
on the examples that you've dealt with, and then something that you turned into a success?
I think my favorite one is this woman who actually came to one of my seminars twice. And she was just so in shock that she couldn't really communicate and be vulnerable at the seminar. And we started talking outside of it. She had lost her husband to a medical procedure that got botched. She had a 20 something stepchild who they found murdered in a foreign country.
Oh gosh.
And then she had a sister who she lived with that succumbed to a terminal illness all within the course of a year.
Wow.
And she was left with the home that her sister and her inherited. And the only family member that remained was a beautiful son who is in his mid 30s, who is on the spectrum, but high functioning, but he'll never be able to live on his own until he has no option. And being at the age that she was at in her late 60s and the time frame that people in her family seemed to last, she was nervous about, what do we do for him? Like, how do I take care of him? He could only work at a grocery store, and that's not enough to afford rent or anything here. The house that they inherited was falling apart. Like, it was literally twisting and cracking in half.
Oh wow.
She thought that maybe she could get a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, so that she could repair the home. But with her limited income, there was no way that that was happening. You mentioned reverse mortgages. She couldn't get one of those on the property because of the state of disrepair that the home was in. And we were able to create a situation where we actually had multiple cash buyers bidding against each other for the property. So even though she had to sell it to an investor, we knew that 110% she was getting as much money as she possibly could for that home. We then used a reverse for purchase. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't.
Many people don't realize that you can actually use a reverse mortgage to purchase a home. You need about 65% down. You need to be 67 years old or older. The older you are, the less that you need down. There's no mortgage payment. You still have to pay your insurance. You still have to pay your property taxes. But for people in California, Prop 19 will let you transfer that if you're over 55. So getting that reverse for purchase would work for that. And she found something that she liked. She was able to support some friends who were musicians that needed a place to stay, that couldn't afford their own place, but could rent a room from her. We set her up with a CPA. So then that created enough trackable income so that, God forbid, I hope to God she lasts for a very long time. She's one of the sweetest people I've ever met. When that happens, her son now has the tax returns so that he can refi that home, stay in the home that he's used to, and use that rental income along with his income from the grocery store as qualifying income to stay in the home. So, and I mean, there's like so much more. Like, they didn't have much of a social circle. They have friends in their own neighborhood now. This young man that is on the spectrum had no friends in this country. All of his friends were on the internet and across the world. He now has friends in his own backyard that he hangs out with, you know, on the street, just like any person would. So it's so cool to see how these doors can actually create new lives. And that's what I focus on. I focus on helping people who are going through this loss and feeling overwhelmed and aren't sure what to do or are second guessing themselves. Just have the answers so they can move forward with clarity and peace of mind and create an empowering new future.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. See, I've already learned something, so I'm going to go back and listen to the recording and take all the notes. But oh my gosh, it's so helpful. And a lot of us don't realize you have more option than just keep it and live in it, sell it, or rent it. We don't know that there are options or alternatives outside of a regular reverse mortgage or, those types of things. So that's
Yeah.
very helpful.
And one thing to relieve anyone's stress, because we're in Gen X here, if you're inheriting a home with a reverse mortgage, they're non-recourse. So what that means is that the beneficiaries of the loan will never have to come out of pocket if the home is worth less than what is owed on the mortgage. So if you're going through that situation and you say, oh my God, I didn't know that the parents had a reverse, and then great, now the market's changed, homes aren't worth as much. Don't Hopefully that helps with some of the stress, but you're not going to be personally held accountable for it.
Yeah, thank goodness, right? That is That would be a nightmare. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. With kind of thinking about your own experience and this great program that you have, if someone's listening today and they're thinking, I need to talk to Scott, what is the best way for them to connect with you and have a conversation?
Well, if you just want to check me out online and make sure that you want to talk to me before you talk to me, you could always look at my YouTube. It's Inherited Homes California. You can look me up on all the socials. It's Sell It Scott, all one word. That's Instagram, Facebook. Um, and then also on the YouTube, for people that have questions that are going through this or looking at it, I take all of the questions that I hear the most from my clients and then make videos about that so that people don't have to wonder and they have experience answering the questions. We have a host of people, CPAs, attorneys, also chiming in to help answer those questions and provide clarity for people. If you're ready for what I call a clarity call and you're like, I need this right now, let's sit down, really just text me 760-697-5661. That's my personal phone number. I'll respond to you and we can set up a time where we can get your family on a Zoom call and figure out a plan that works for everyone.
That's outstanding. Thank you so much for sharing your contact information. I feel like I've learned a lot today, so I know that our listeners have. What are some final tips that you might want to share with our listeners, just who maybe are either getting a little older and they're thinking about what they should be doing to set their family up for better success, or for people who are on the verge of receiving a home as an inheritance?
I would say if you feel like you already have a plan, double check your plan just because, like we mentioned before, some of those plans have been set years ago. And as you said, life happens, things change.
Mhm.
Double check it, have it reviewed. It's worth the time with your attorney. Um, if you've already lost someone, really just take the time to focus on you. And even as you transition out of that time of mourning, remember that mourning comes up in different ways for different people. So if you look up, like, how long does mourning take? And you hear, I should be done with it in a month. Those aren't your standards and those aren't your guidelines. You're processing it in the way you're going to process it. And things change as you heal. And it's really a beautiful journey. And it's amazing to see the future that you can create out of the legacies that have been given to us. So if you don't know what to do, reach out. Even if you're in that oh shoot moment, focus on yourself, spend time outside, spend time doing the things that you love, and maybe even think of some things that you loved in the past. But since we've all grown older, maybe we forgot about some of those.
Oh, I love that so much. The mourning period, it's so different for everyone. I
Yeah.
know that people are like, "Oh, a couple months or a couple years," or like there's always this random. And when I lost my nana, who was the closest person in my life, that was my mom's mom, I just remember thinking, "Okay, I've done it. I've mourned. I'm living, the way she would want me to at this point. Like things are good." And I was shopping and I saw a rooster at a store. I was at Home Goods and there was this rooster, and I started bawling in the middle of Home Goods because of this stupid rooster, because she collected chickens and roosters. And it was probably
Yeah,
3 years later. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I share that to say it can hit you out of the blue at no given time. I think that there's a period of really you're kind of quiet and maybe a little more introspective for some of us, but I don't know that it ever goes away when someone close to you, has passed, that you just don't have those moments where you really miss them. So, thank you for
absolutely.
saying that out loud.
And then, and just to add one more, if I could, I would say
Yes.
when you have those moments, just be in gratitude for them. Even if you're bawling your eyes out and have to run out of the grocery store and you feel embarrassed, because who cries in a grocery store?
Who's carrying a big chicken in Home Goods that doesn't really need
Yeah,
it?
exactly. And it's like, I've had those moments too, where like even 10 years later, I was in a grocery store and I could have sworn I saw my mom in there. And it's, you know, you got to find a place where you're grateful for those moments because I mean, there's countless spiritual beliefs that I won't get into because we don't have time here, but there's just so much power to that. We're just being in gratitude for those moments, even if they feel difficult at the time. It helps them just wash over you and through you rather than consuming you.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I was able to get out of Home Goods and call my mom. And then we had a good laugh about how many damn chickens my grandmother had. There were just so many chickens.
That's amazing.
Ceramic chickens, decorative plates with chickens, like just chickens. And I
Was
remember
it
when
one
she
room
passed
that
it.
was more?
Yeah, it was more the kitchen and dining area for the most part. But when she passed, it was like, okay, who wants all the chickens? I do not want the chickens. Because then people
Nice.
start thinking I'm collecting chickens, and then every gift I get is a chicken.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of hesitant
But
to even grab one of them at that point, right?
exactly. But the moment of gratitude comes in being able to laugh about it and think about her and just kind of visualize again that room that I haven't been in for years now with all those chickens staring at me.
Yeah, just
Oh my
wondering what you're
gosh.
having for dinner, right?
Right. Well, not chicken. I'm allergic to it. So go figure.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. This was so informative, Scott. I really appreciate you for joining us and for sharing all of your insight and helping those of us who are in this Gen X space. We're kind of in that sandwich generation space. Understand, that there are some things that we should be planning for our kids or our beneficiaries' future, but also for our own futures as we're looking at inheriting potential property from parents who are aging. So, thank you very much. We look forward to getting this out into the world.
awesome. Thank you again so much, Tabatha. I really appreciate the work that you're doing and how you're helping people. It's so beautiful to tune into and listen.
Thank you. Wow, that was such an important and powerful conversation. Scott reminded us that inheriting a home isn't just a financial decision, it's also an emotional decision. His guidance to pause, gather the family, and create a plan that fits everyone's needs is something every Gen Xer in the sandwich generation can use. If you want to connect with Scott, you'll find him on YouTube at Inherited Homes California, on socials at Sell Scott, or you can even text him directly at the number he shared in the episode. We'll also include that in the show notes. And for my listeners who are ready to build your next act, you don't have to navigate that transition alone either. Be sure to pop over to my website and grab my free Corporate Escape Starter Kit. The link will be in the show notes. It's your first step to mapping out your bold next chapter with confidence. Until next time, friends, keep climbing higher, pivoting smarter, and escaping louder. We'll see you next time.